Hi guys, White Warlock here. This is going to be another deck guide video on the red-blue items deck. And this time it's a mulligan, but we will be playing the mulligan and the first few turns. So I will do a few hands and talk about the lines, if you're on the draw, if you're on the play, and against some matchups. And we will play the first 3-4 turns depending on how our hand looks. So let's start with the first hand. This is a very item-heavy hand with few uninkables. So we have 3 cards that are almost always mulligans, but I think in this case I will keep the workshop to get a guaranteed turn 3 play. If we do not draw a fishbone quill, and even then workshop is probably better turn 3 play, or a queen, then we can do this on turn 3. We have a turn 1 play of Popsicle, we have a turn 2 play of Popsicle Shield, and you could keep the Vitality Sphere for ink, but against some matchups you really want a Hiram or a queen, and that's what we're going for. So we will mill 3, we will get a Hiram and 2 uninkables. So we will put these, we will shuffle these back. And when you're shuffling in a tournament, think about your hand. Use the time to just take a focus, get your focus on your hand, and think about what your opponent is playing. If it's the first game, you don't know their colors, obviously, but you could get a hint from their mulligans. Let's say they mulligan 5 or more. They could be playing green steel or blue steel. And if you're playing against green steel, you have to play a lot different than against basically every other deck. So I'll talk about that during the playtime. So we have our 7 cards. During this practice, I will always assume we are on the play, and if we're on the draw, I'll let you know what changes you can make. So right now we have 4 inkables. And what we kind of want is we want either a turn 3 Sisu against an opponent's threat or a workshop. And to get to that point, we want to ink cards and draw some extra ink, right? Hiram is too important to ink, especially in this situation. And 2 popsicles are nice to draw as cards. So I will ink the shield and play the popsicle. And we will draw from popsicle and we get a queen. Too bad we inked the shield. Alright, we will untap and we will draw. We will get a brawl. So against some decks, brawl and Sisu are basically the same card. It kills the same things we want to kill. Against other decks, Sisu is useless and brawl kills everything we want to kill. It really depends on what our opponent plays, right? But right now we have no turn to play except for just the popsicle. So we play the popsicle first, then we decide what we want to ink. So play the popsicle, draw a card, draw another Hiram. So against decks that can easily deal with our Hiram, you might want to keep both. Against decks like Blue Steel, which can't really deal with our Hiram very well, you can ink the Hiram and then pass a turn. You could say if we're on the draw, then a queen is less likely to be a good turn 3 play, especially against some decks that can just insta-kill it uh, without us being able to activate it. And against other decks, Brawl is a useless card, so we ink the Brawl. But for the purpose of this video, I will ink the second Harem. Alright, then we will untap and we will draw. Okay, so we got a Tamatoa. Let's say we're playing against a deck that we want removal. We have a Sisu and a Brawl and a Medusa. If we think that, let's say we play turn 3, we play the Queen, and turn 4 we play the Workshop or the Hiram, then we have a turn 5 and turn 6 play. So we have a Brawl plus Medusa on like turn 5, turn 6, or if we're playing against red-blue, we can see through their Hiram and then play Medusa. So sometimes Brawl is not necessary anymore. And against those matchups, you kind of want to keep the Tamatoa in hand. If you're playing against green steel, however, you probably want to ink the Tamatoa and wait later to get your other three. Um, so it kind of depends on whether you ink one or the two. For the purposes of this goldfish, it doesn't matter because we're not making turn 8 and we're goldfishing, so brawl doesn't matter. But in general, I think I would ink the Tamatoa, but it very much depends what you're playing against. So I will play the queen and pass the turn. Right, on turn 4, we want to activate the queen, but let's see what we draw. Right, so we draw another queen. Most of the time, I would ink the queen here. We already have one, and then we have the brawl for either further ink or for the removal on turn 5. So right now, what I would do is I would play the workshop first, then activate the queen. Obviously, if you get shield here, you're a bit sad, but then again, you do draw a card and you get your engine going. And otherwise, you could have played the shield and untapped queen to activate queen another time. Drawing an extra card is always good, especially against decks like green steel. However, we miss, so that's very unfortunate. I would most of the time keep it like this at the end. Like when you're reaching these cards, you probably have enough ink to play Hiram and Medusa. And if you're in that situation, you probably don't have a lot of cards in your hand, even though we have a Marie's Workshop here. So I would order it like this, keep the removal a little bit in the middle, and we will draw these two cards, right? The two removal cards from the Hiram, and then we can use the Scuttle later. So I will order it like this. Then I'll just show you turn 5, which is probably rather simple, but you'll see what we draw. Okay, we draw another Brawl. Let's activate the Queen. Let's see if we miss again, which would be very rare. We do. Wow. Yikes. All right, this is like a doom scenario. This happens like one in every 100 games or so. You missed with the queen twice. You don't get to use your workshop twice. It's a little bit unfortunate. This time, I will take the Beef Bear first and then the Flahersham. But you have to remember that the bottom card is a Scuttle. So if you're in this situation, try to remember that you should not play that Scuttle, because then you will throw all 4 on the bottom again, and the Beef Bear with it. And if you needed the Beef Bear, then you'll be rather sad. Um, yeah, in this scenario, you just play the Hiram, kill Popsicle, draw 2 cards, and then you ink probably the Brawl now, and you pass. Alright, that was the first hand. I will go to the second hand, see if we are a little bit more lucky with our green activations. Alright, let's continue with our second hand. So we will draw 7. Let's see what we get now. Alright, we will get a Be Prepared, a Dime, Ice Block, Queen, Scuttle, Brawl, and another Queen. Alright, so these two, the Be Prepared and Lucky Dime, are free mulligans. We don't need to think about that. It's just how the deck works, kind of. And now we can decide what we do. So we have a turn 1 play, Ice Block, a turn 2 play, Scuttle, and a turn 3 play Queen or on the draw Brawl, right? If we are on the draw, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm playing against green steel, and even then it might be worth it to keep the Queen. So we can ink a Queen on turn 3, play a Brawl, and then maybe on turn 4 play a Queen. Or let's say we draw 2 more inkables, which is not very likely. It's most likely that we draw at least 1 more inkable. Then we could ink the first queen and play an ice block on turn 1. So generally I would keep it like this. Against green steel, you might want to hard mulligan a little bit more for a Hiram and get rid of the queen. But I think I'm fine with this. If this was a popsicle, it would have been way better, obviously, and then keeping the queen makes even more sense because you don't want to ink it and you want to play it on turn 1 guaranteed. And if we draw 2 uninkables, then our plan goes a little bit awry. But in this case, I will keep the queen for the ink, and we will get to, and we will draw a popsicle and a fishbone quill. Okay, so the only thing we really need now is Hiram, right? To make this hand really good. A workshop would be nice, or a shield. So right now, when we're thinking, what are we doing? What are we inking? We have double queen. I haven't had that many games where I would want a second queen or have the time to play a second queen. Sometimes in the mirror you could have, like, if your opponent bricks a little bit, then double queen is very nice, but you have to be careful of if they play a fishbone quill that they be prepared early. So in general, I would ink a second queen and play a popsicle. So we draw for the popsicle. Alright, and we draw another ice block. If you draw another uninkable, what you could do next turn is ink scuttle, play double ice block, but we will see what we get. Untap, draw. Alright, we do get another uninkable. And the idea is, okay, so if we are on the play, we kind of want to keep the brawl for turn 4. Especially if you have double ice block, we can basically kill everything with brawl, right? On turn 4. And we want to keep like scuttle and queen 100% to play, right? However, like with this, we kind of want to keep inkables in our hand and ink the uninkables. Sorry, and play the uninkables. If we're playing against green steel, you probably don't need a double ice block, and you want to keep cards to discard. So against green steel, I think I would ink the fishbone quill and play the scuttle. Hopefully draw another card, and then we start discarding Sisu and ice blocks. The next few turns. In this case, I'm gonna take a little bit of a risk and ink the scuttle and play double ice block, assuming we're not playing against green steel. And so we have a very good brawl on like turn 4 after we play queen on turn 3. Right. I'll untap and we will draw for turn. We draw a Hiram, amazing. That makes our hand a lot better. So right now, normally, let's say we play against a mirror, then I'll keep the brawl to kill the opposing Hiram or anything that has 4 or more attack, right? Maybe a queen, or you could kill Medusa, but killing a Medusa is most of the time not worth your time. So I think I would ink a fishbone quill here and keep the removal. Against some against some decks, you could change the brawl for the fishbone quill, but you kind of want to get the fishbone quill from the queen, and you won't have a lot of time to play this fishbone quill because we want to play queen on turn 3 and then probably play Hiram on turn 4, and then we have removal for later. So I'm inking the fishbone quill here, and I'll play the queen. All right, turn 4, we draw a card for turn. Get another brawl, so this will be our ink most likely, but we are first gonna activate the queen. If we get a shield, you could ink a brawl, play the shield, activate queen again. If we're playing against green steel, we're playing the Hiram almost every time. Let's activate the queen. Get a queen, get a Tamatoa, Maui, a Sisu, or we just miss again. Jeez, 3 misses in a row. Alright, so I'll basically always put the Tamatoa first and basically always put the queen last. And then most of the time the better removal is Sisu, especially with double ice block if we can keep those in hand. So Tamatoa top, queen bottom, and then Sisu and Maui in the middle. Alright, and we are going to ink a brawl and then play a Hiram and kill the popsicle. The ice blocks are way more important than a popsicle could be. We draw 2 cards. Alright, next turn, let's say we're in turn 5. I'll just play this one because it could be interesting with the LeFou. We draw a card, we draw a brawl. So what you could do in this turn is you could ink a brawl or a Vitalisphere and activate Queen, play a queen and brawl something. Let's say they play Hiram, and that's a little bit how you can go further than turn 4 and see uh, how you play again. But that like the next few turns are so reliant on what your opponent plays that goldfishing them makes a little bit less sense than the early turns. All right, I'll grab the third hand and I will return soon. All right, let's take the third hand. So we draw 7, and let's see what we have. Okay, so we have a Brawl, Lucky Dime, Hiram, Dragon, Brawl, Hiram, Fishbone Quill. So, what are we missing? We are missing a turn 1 and a turn 2 play, and we have 2 cards that we definitely do not need. So in this situation, if I'm playing against Green Steel, I'll probably keep both Hirams. But you could get rid of one in other situations and get rid of the Fishbone and maybe even a Brawl. I will take a conservative approach and do mulligan the Fishbone Quill, but keep the double Brawl, double Hiram. Blind, let's say we don't do anything turn 1 and turn 2, we need the Brawls to answer our opponent and kind of help us to get to the late game. And we might not even have enough items to play the Hiram. So I will mulligan 3, get a queen, a shield, and a workshop. Okay, so we we do draw very good cards that kind of solve our hand, even though we don't have a turn 2 play. Our turn 3 and 4 play will be very good, so we can deal with it a bit. Especially if we're on the play, missing our turn 2 play isn't the biggest of deals. Against green steel, it might actually be good, because we have one more card in hand, we can discard later. Yeah, the only problem now is thinking about what you should ink. And you could do that while shuffling, or you could do that now, right? But be a little bit kind to your opponent and use as little time as possible. When I play a tournament, I like to have a break after my games, and games can take a long time with this deck. So yeah, think about it while shuffling, and then make your decision. So we have our turn 1 play. We have a turn 3 play. We have a probable turn 4 play and turn 5, or one of these two for turn 4, depending on what we play against. So I think we can ink one Brawl or ink one Hiram. If we are on the play, Brawls are a little bit worse because we're not playing a Brawl on turn 3, but we want to play a Queen on turn 3 and we want to be a little bit more proactive. If you are on the draw, then Hiram gets a little bit worse because you'll need to find time to play the first Hiram and then the second Hiram, who knows when. If we're playing against blue-red, then Brawl becomes a little bit less important and double Hiram becomes more important. If we're playing against blue-steel, then your Hiram will likely survive for a longer time, so you don't need a second. So this one depends a lot on what we're playing against. In this case, I will just ink a Brawl, but it can be any of the two cards depending on what we're playing against. And in a goldfish like this, it won't matter. We won't reach a turn where we need double Hiram, and we will never play a Brawl because it's a goldfish. All right, so we will ink the Brawl, and we will play a shield. All right, we will draw for turn 2. We play a crossbow. We draw a crossbow. Yeah, against basically every deck, you ink the crossbow here. Maybe against red purple you won't, but even then I think you rather want the double Hiram. So that if one gets killed by a Brawl, you can play the other one and they waste their turn playing Brawl. So in crossbow and then pass. We'll draw a card for turn 3 and we get an ice block. Right, so now it's time to ink the second Hiram, because we want one and we want one Brawl for answers. Let's say Diablo or opponent Hiram, and then we will play a queen. Next turn we have to decide whether we want to play workshop or shield, or activate shield. Alright, untap, we will draw. We get a popsicle. So right now, next turn we don't really have a good Hiram target, and we might want to keep the brawl. So what you could do here is activate Queen, hopefully get a popsicle, and then activate Shield. Or you could play a popsicle, draw, ink either the top card or whatever, or one of the Hirams or the Brawls. Or you could play Workshop and ink either the Hiram or the Brawl, depending on the matchup. So you can start drawing cards. So getting your engine going at the start is very important. And Marie's Workshop just gives us an engine. And let's say if we get another Marie's Workshop from the Queen activation, then we have with the with the ice block and the popsicle, we draw a lot of cards. So then the Hiram becomes less necessary. If we're playing against Green Steel, at this point, if they haven't played a Diablo yet, because it's our turn 4, so they had an opportunity to play Diablo, then we just ink the brawl. And if we want, we can, when they do play Diablos, we can ready them with the shield so they don't draw any cards on our turn after we drew for our turn, obviously. So they draw one card, then we can untap it, and then we can start drawing cards with Workshop or our Hirims. And also, I think against Green Steel, it's more important to actually have cards in your hand rather than always killing the bird or well, the bird killing other characters. The bird is more important, so then a brawl becomes a little bit more of a priority to keep. But we'll do it like this and play the Workshop. Then we will activate Queen. We will. Are we seriously? Oh my God, we are missing Queen 4 times in a row this video. This is honestly, uh, wow. That's very interesting. Okay, so to order this against most matchups, you could do Hiram first, then Sisu, then Brawl. Or you could, on other matchups, you could do Sisu first, then Hiram, then Brawl, or Sisu, Brawl, Hiram. Kind of depends. If you have enough, we're gonna assume that we will have enough ink to play both Hiram and the Sisu, so we do Hiram on top, then the Sisu, then a Brawl, then a Queen. Okay, at this point I would wait for the popsicles and the ice block and the Hiram for next turn, so we can draw cards from them and see what we get. If Queen survives, then the most likely turn is activate Queen and see what we get there. So let's say Queen survives, we untap, we draw on an inkable card. So we kind of want to see what we get now first before we make a decision to play Hiram's, activate Shield, or play our items. So let's activate Queen. We get a Shield. Okay, we have not missed 5 times in a row, but 4 times in a row is rather unlucky. This time it's quite obvious, just place the Maleficent on top. And because we already have a shield, we can just play this shield for free. Or you can keep it as ink, but we're gonna draw a lot of cards this turn, so I don't think that's necessary. So we will play the shield for free, and we will draw a card from Workshop. We're getting a Fishbone Quill. Alright, that one is pretty interesting. So what you could do here is, because we have a Workshop already, what you could do here is ink the Hiram, then play the Fishbone Quill and draw a card from Workshop, and then ink the Sisu probably, or ink the card we draw. I would probably keep the LeFou, but depending on our matchup, sometimes you want to keep the Sisu, sometimes you want to keep the LeFou. Or you could, we drew one from the Workshop, or you could ink the Fishbone Quill here and play the Hiram and kill one of the 2 shields and draw 2 cards. It can depend on what is more important for you. If ramp is more important in the matchup, you want to try to ramp. If more cards in hand is more important in your matchup, you can Hiram. Or you could even just play the Popsicle for one, draw a card from Popsicle, draw a card from workshop, and then in this situation we can play Le Inklefu, play a ice block and draw a card from workshop. So we have even more cards in hand. I think this one is the play I like the most, having more items in our hand and having a good item to kill with Hiram instead of a shield, although we do have 2 shields right now. But it kind of depends on what we are playing against, and if the ice block is important, then this line gives us the ability to play an ice block, and now we have a second ice block, so Sisu becomes a lot better. Uh, kind of depends on what you're playing against. If ramp is more important, then you want to go for the ramp route, right? All right, that was this hand. I will do one more hand, and then we will talk about the final notes. All right, one final hand. Let's draw 7. Let's see what we get. So we get Maui, Workshop, Fang, Hiram, Brawl, Brawl. All right, so this hand definitely misses a lot of things. We have a reasonable turn 3 play on the draw. Brawls are better. Maybe you keep both on the play. Workshop is better. And we have a turn 4 Hiram, but we have no items, and we're definitely not killing a workshop with Hiram. These 3 are mulligans in this situation, and I will probably also mulligan a brawl unless we're playing on the draw. On the draw against a deck that is a little bit more aggro, or where you need a brawl answer, let's say green steel, where you need an answer to Diablos, or in the mirror, where you need an answer to Hiram, and maybe even 2, right? But for this case, I will mulligan it, because we have like a blind on the play, because we kind of want our turn 3 to be the workshop or a different card, and we really need a turn 1 item and a turn 2 play. So we will mulligan 4, and we will get absolute trash. All right, so this is a example of a brick hand. We don't really get anything. I mean, next turn, like on turn 3, we can play Workshop, and turn 4, we can start ramping. So if we play against a slow deck on the play, then maybe we have a chance. But if you play against Red Purple with this hand, it might become a lot harder. But at least we have Sisu and Brawl, and maybe we draw good cards uh, for our first and second draw steps. All right, so on turn 1, I think I will almost always ink the Maui here, unless you know you're playing against red purple, in which case you could ink the fishbone quill, but you might need the fishbone quill in this situation to quill at least the Sisu, or get a fast Bee Prepared, because we're so slow that a fast Bee Prepared might be necessary against some decks. So I would ink the Maui, and then we pass. And for our first draw step on turn 2, we get a lucky dime. All right, we are very slow. So yeah, the fishbone quill to be prepared line is becoming a little bit more of a must play. But if you're on the play, you can. We are probably going for a turn 3 Maurice into hopefully an item, or just into the fishbone quill. So we will ink the brawl, and we will pass. Hopefully we draw another inkable, so we don't have to ink the Hiram or the fishbone quill. We draw a brawl. Again, sometimes this brawl might be necessary, and we have to ink the Hiram or the fishbone quill. In this case, inking the Hiram isn't bad, because we do not have any Hiram targets. And with the Maurice workshop, we can at least start drawing a card from Quill, and then use Quill to get to the Beaver Bear as soon as possible. So for this goldfish, I'm gonna ink the brawl, but you'll definitely have games where you will have to ink the Hiram, and you will feel very sad. But sometimes decks, yeah, sometimes games like this just happen. Most of the time in this situation, Sisu might just have a target. So you could also play a Sisu, but we are gonna play the workshop. Right, turn 4, you're gonna draw a card. we're gonna get the queen. Way too late, unfortunately. What I would do is I would ink the queen here, play the fishbone quill, then draw a card from the workshop. We draw a crossbow, so this is a good ink for next turn. And then we ink the Sisu. Now we have 5 ink. Next turn, if we draw any other cards that we want to ink, we can ink that card or the crossbow, the other card with the fishbone quill, and just uh, go for the be prepared. Let's see what we draw. We draw a Vitalosphere. So now it depends on what your opponent's hand was, or what your opponent's plays were. If we were playing the mirror and your opponent was also just not, they didn't have a queen or didn't have a Hiram, and if they did, then we obviously wouldn't have inked the we wouldn't have inked the Sisu, obviously. Um, but we, like in the mirror, you can ink a be prepared. That's totally okay. But now, like if we're playing against the red purple that hasn't played the castle and you want to deal with their board, or you play against green steel, then you probably just want to be prepared now. Just ink fishbone quill and ink a vitalosphere. Sorry, ink a fan crossbow and ink a vitalosphere with fishbone quill, and then start be preparing. And then next turn you could probably crack the fishbone quill of the Hiram if we don't draw any cards. However, what you could also do if you don't need to play the Be Prepared is play the Sphere, draw a card from Workshop. Oh, let's untap this. We get a Fishbone Quill, and then I think against the matchup where you don't need to be prepared, the crossbow is probably important enough. So we can ink the Fishbone Quill and play the Hiram to kill the Vitalosphere and draw 2 cards. We get another Hiram and a Maleficent. And then because we're actually pretty close, we're already at 6, and we can get to A7 now and 9 next turn. I'm inking the crossbow over the Maleficent. So we can kind of get back here. Um, if our Hiram doesn't die, we can kill the Fishbone Quill, and we will draw, like, the draws we have now are pretty good. We have Medusa that can kill things or become ink for the dragon, or we can play Be Prepared. If we have time, we can even play a Lucky Diamond draw, and we are drawing into a queen, which will probably be ink and a workshop. So even though this was quite a bad hand, probably one of the worst you can get. The situation, like against some decks, is very solvable with a Be Prepared with this line. So yeah, the thing is with these kind of videos and with testing mulligans is that it heavily depends on what your opponent is doing. I hope I gave you enough information during every decision or every line where you learned how to play against every important matchup. There are obviously some matchup like hyper aggro where you want to completely change your mulligan strategy, and let's say you have be prepared and Fishbone Quill in your opening hand, you keep both and you just go for a super fast Be Prepared. Which is kind of like the set 1 red blue or the set 2 red blue game plan. Um, and you keep things like small Sisu and Ice Block. And against green steel, you change your play pattern so much where you just go for draw cards and spend your turns killing Hirams. Killing Diablos. I hope that was this video was very helpful to you. Um, I'm probably gonna stream either today or well, this afternoon. I'm gonna stream today, either this afternoon or later this evening. Um, I hope you will come watch and maybe come play. We also always need players to play with on the webcam. So if you're interested, join the Discord link down below. Uh, and well, if you're interested in the deck list is also down below. I hope this video was helpful to you. Thank you guys for watching.